Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. It is a Tuesday here, and we are just going to bring you some more of our fantasy football news. We've been going over the division by division depth charts, giving you my thoughts on how each team stacks up fantasy-wise, and if they have some diamonds in the rough, some obvious standouts fantasy-wise, or just some guys that, might just be a good pickup throughout the middle of the season. You never know what you can find as we're just kind of combing through these depth charts of each NFL team. Right now, we're going to be doing the NFC North second segment, also NFC North, and then the second half of the show we'll be doing the NFC South. So like I said, on Friday, or on Thursday last week, we did the NFC East and West. Now we're doing North and South, as we're going to start right away without any further ado. Green Bay Packers. Obviously, you got Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, now you got Jimmy Graham going over there, and Jimmy Graham, he might be turning into an early round tight end, and maybe be like a 4th, 5th, 6th round tight end. And obviously, his draft stock goes way up when he's got a guy like Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. They're probably just going to use him a little differently. He's going to go back and being used the way he was used in New Orleans, where he's going to be going on those seam routes, finding soft spots in the zone, getting matched up on linebackers and safeties versus staying in, I don't know, like, what was it, probably 50% of the time, at least he was staying in the block there in Seattle, wasn't getting much downfield action. So I'm probably going to see that a lot more of that come this season with the Packers. And then obviously having Aaron Rodgers throwing to him, like I said, is a nice little cherry on top. So you got to think about Jimmy Graham. If you're looking for a tight ends, especially with Gronk, the way he's going now, well, Gronk, we'll see how engaged he is this year. We'll get to the Patriots next week on Thursday, so I'll leave it for that. But when it comes to tight ends, Jimmy Graham, you can't really go wrong there. And I just can't help but liking the fact that he's going to be having Aaron Rodgers be thrown at him this season. So you got to like that coming in to the year, and might want to use an early round. I just want to steal him. Just steal him, use an early round pick. You know what? Okay, I got my great running back. I got my receiver. I just want to take a tight end. I'm just going to take a tight end, fill out, go position by position, and you can grab Jimmy Graham. Who else really is there? Zach Ertz is obviously a big tight end. You got Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram. You still got Tyler Eifert, but he's kind of fallen off there in Cincinnati. So, they're kind of down on the vine. It's either you're going to mix and match your tight ends, or you're going to find one of the very short handful of guys that can be that can carry your team pretty much throughout the whole season. Be just a everyday, every week tight end that you just put out there and get points and get catches. Tight ends are PPR. That's what they're meant for, because they can very much possession receivers going to get catches, maybe get in the end zone if it's a guy like Jimmy Graham who can find it with his size and be a weapon in the red zone. So you got to be able to do that. Obviously, they have still Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb on the outside, both very productive fantasy players. Devontae is draftable. Randall Cobb is coming out of the realm of draftable. He's getting a little older on his. A little more age on the wheels there for Randall Cobb, but definitely finds his way in the end zone more often than you think. Geronimo Allison's another guy to look at in their receiving core, as he sits as a third receiver right now. But knowing Aaron Rodgers, he's going to spread the ball around. That's the thing about getting these Green Bay receivers. Either they're going to have good days or great days. I think it's pretty much they're gonna get their touches, whether they're actually gonna get in the end zone. That's why they might be a little tough to pick when it comes to non-PPR leagues, because you never know who's gonna get in the end zone. It's just too volatile. Versus guys in PPR where there's gonna be okay, Devontae Adams had 9 catches for 90 yards. We're good. Like it doesn't matter if he got in the end zone or not. But Randall Cobb had 3 catches for 30 yards, but got a touchdown. I mean, that's nice too. So you can kind of do it either way when it comes to Green Bay. On the running back side of it, obviously, Tom Montgomery is still listed number 1 on the depth chart for running backs. Obviously, Aaron Jones is there too. Jamal Williams. Tom Montgomery, he's a good guy to pick up maybe throughout the late parts of the draft if you really want to go out and get a guy like that. Or you could just wait and see if he comes out in the waivers. As far as waiver wire running backs, said that 5 times fast. Waiver wire running backs. Aaron Jones is up there in the ranks of a guy that you should definitely keep an eye on, because he had a nice little season last year. Can come in just in case there's some, especially if there's injuries. If Montgomery goes down at all during the season, be on the lookout for Aaron Jones on that waiver wire and make sure you grab him, because he can be kind of a little spark plug if he's given those touches and has the ability to definitely be a game breaker kind of guy when it comes to just ripping off big runs. All right, on the defensive side, I mean, I wouldn't really call Green Bay ever really that defensively strong. The one time Aaron Rodgers was given a really good defense, he won the Super Bowl. So this year, it looks like it's still going to be Clay Matthews and Nick Perry really holding down that linebacking core. They have Muhammad Wilkerson coming over from the Jets now on the defensive end side. So, and then obviously still Clinton Dix and the rookie now, Jair Alexander, coming in that nickelback position. Clinton Dix still playing safety. So, I mean, there's a couple guys in there to pick if you like the individual defensive players. Clay Matthews racks up those tackles. So does Nick Perry. So does Blake Martinez. There's a guy that maybe you might not have heard of. This is a Stanford graduate. He went up there in Palo Alto, and he's been a good guy on that linebacker position and that middle linebacker position for the Packers. Blake Martinez gets lots of tackles. But, I mean, you can also look at Clinton Dix, Wilkerson, even Jair Alexander, the rookie, if you're looking for individual defensive player to be like more of a ball hawk if you're looking for those looking for the interceptions for a tackle machine, which a lot of those linebackers are. All right, enough about the Packers. Next up in the NFC North is going to be the Chicago Bears. Obviously, Mitchell Trubisky, not really a draftable. I guess I didn't even talk about Rodgers in the last one with the Packers, because he's obviously a good quarterback and should be drafted. But that's it. That was pretty much it. Okay, Bears. Allen Robertson coming in from Jacksonville. He's a draftable receiver. Got to see how he comes back from the injury. Trey Burton coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles on tight end. It slots right into their number 1 tight end position on the depth chart. Not really draftable, but definitely a guy to look out for. See if he gets on a good page, good chemistry with Mitchell Trubisky. Could be a weapon in the long run at tight end. Jordan Howard, definitely draftable. He's probably going to go in that second tier running back. That's the one thing. The running back talent right now is actually pretty deep in the NFL. So even if you miss out on the Gurleys and the Bells and Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, I'm still going on and on. But there's not 10 guys really. But there's 8, there's 9, and Jordan Howard is definitely one of them that you'd be happy to get him maybe early in the second round if you're a guy that maybe went 4th pick overall and got early in the second round would be the guys, if it was especially for a snake draft. Early in the second round would be the guys at the back end of the first round that went and got a receiver, and now they need a running back, and they're going to get Jordan Howard with like the 3rd pick of the second round, which is actually not a bad play there. So yeah, I like that. But no, and then Tariq Cohen also is another speed back, good player, gets in the end zone, finds his way around the field very well. Could see him go probably even early in the first half of the draft as well, maybe the third round, fourth round as well, because he's explosive, and that's what fantasy is about. It's about getting those yards, having explosive players on the field. The one thing is they do split, Jordan Howard does get the bulk of the carries, but they're probably going to have some two-back sets. They're going to have both those guys out there with Trubisky to give him the most options. Whether it's, Tariq Cohen's going to catch the ball in the backfield a lot, and he's got the speed and the agility to be able to be elusive and get away. Whether it's on a screen or a little slot pass into the middle of the field. There's so many different types of screens now these days. But if you're a PPR, maybe you value Tariq Cohen a bit more because he will be catching the ball out of the backfield for the most part, while Jordan Howard will be just getting those bell cow handoffs, going to go ground and pound into the line of scrimmage, which is fine because he finds his holes and he gets big yards. The other receivers though for the Bears right now are Kevin White and Josh Bellamy. Josh Bellamy is more of the I'll say kind of the veteran. Obviously, you got Allen Robertson coming over, but the Bears really needed some help on the defensive core. They got the Matt Nagy, the new head coach, first-year head coach, coming over from the Chiefs. Mark Helfrich coming over from, he used to be at Oregon a little bit ago, and is going to be the offensive coordinator. They still got Vic Fangio on the defensive side. Wow, that's interesting. Obviously, their defense is one where it's actually going to draw some eyes. Getting Roquan Smith is huge for this Bears defense. Obviously, he was the best player available, and a guy at linebacker who's going to slide right into that starting position at the left-hand side linebacker. They got Aaron Lynch down the outside, as he's going to be more of an edge rusher. Dan Trevathan will be back behind the line with Roquan Smith. So those are both guys. All those guys can be somebody you could think about for an individual defensive player, and definitely something that everybody should be looking at. Kyle Fuller is another guy. Prince and Mukamara, both their corners are honestly very, very special guys that you should look at because, that's definitely something. Definitely something that could attract some people who are doing the IDPs. And for guys, whether you're looking for a tackle machine at linebacker, that's what I was saying. It's kind of how the question is every time. Obviously, it would be nice to have, they got Akeem Hicks as defensive end, so you could think about him maybe as a guy going after sacks. But if you were going to do that, I'd go after Aaron Lynch, defensive player. Left outside, he's listed at left outside linebacker. Really, that he's going to play down in the 3-point stance and go after those quarterbacks on the edge. Be more of an edge rusher. But if you want the ball hawking cornerback who's going to get a lot of pass breakups, depends how you guys have the point scoring set up for the individual defensive player. But so it's going to definitely be something to look at when it comes to the ability to get those points on defense. That's what we all want, right? Nothing's going to help. Anything to help more and more when it comes to helping out your defensive players on the defense. Also, if you're going to do something with individual defense where you don't have an IDP necessarily, but a team defense would be something to look at as well, as they're going to be a team probably that's going to create a lot of turnovers and be a pest for all those poor quarterbacks out there, because they got some good guys. They got some guys who can go after the ball. Whether it is Kyle Fuller, Mukamara, they've got some good safeties as well. So, but having those linebackers, they kind of got it all with the linebacker and the defensive core. So you go like that. If you are a fantasy owner looking for some talent all over the place, and you're not really that picky, but looking at their lineup. They got Taylor Gabriel as well. That's another guy. Just saw him kind of sneaking in there. He's in that slot receiver position. Getting Taylor Gabriel from the Atlanta Falcons is a big deal. He's going to be a guy definitely be drafted, and I think he's going to be a good outlet for Mitchell Trubisky. Nothing can help a young quarterback more than a slot receiver who's going to be open on those short routes, but he's going to be open a lot. pitch and catch action for Mitchell Trubisky and Taylor Gabriel. And I mean, PPR, be on the lookout for PPR people, because definitely a commodity right there. Guy gets a lot of catches. Taylor Gabriel. All right. That was it for the Bears. We'll come back with the Vikings and the Lions on the other side of the break, so just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, as we will be going over the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. We'll start with the Lions, and they have a few guys to talk about. I wouldn't call them any top tier number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 round guys. Maybe 4th round. I don't know. It depends where you want to pick Marvin Jones. I like Marvin Jones. Always been a fan of Marvin Jones. He can go get the ball. He's very good in the air. Somehow gets in the end zone a lot. I mean, he's got Matthew Stafford, who's kind of a gunslinging quarterback. Likes to throw the ball down the field. So, I mean, got to have some receivers go get it too. So, they got Kenny Golladay, they got Golden Tate, T.J. Jones, and Marvin Jones at the receiving core. And I mean, I like Marvin Jones. Have liked him for a long time. And I mean, he's a guy I would honestly reach to get him in the draft. Probably, he's still younger, still athletic. So I mean, so he can still. I mean, he'll definitely he can stay healthy throughout the whole season. I mean, he's just a good investment on a draft pick, especially if he's available around the 4th or 5th round. So Marvin Jones, definitely a guy I want to look at. Golden Tate getting up there, losing a little bit on the speed. Always been the undersized receiver. Obviously had a good little tenure in Seattle, and then also has had a good time here in Detroit as well, stat-wise. It could be a little volatile when it comes to fantasy. He'll have some up and down weeks. So, I mean, I would stay away from him in the draft, but definitely somebody if I see him on the waiver wire, which I probably won't because he usually is on a team no matter what, whether he was drafted or gets picked up soon after the draft. But if I saw him hypothetically, I would like it and I would grab him, especially against a team with some weak interior corners or interior secondary personnel. So because he's going to be able to slip through those little cracks in the zone and find that soft spot, and also matches up good against linebackers too. So in that slot, so you got to like that. On the running back side, they got a bunch of options. Obviously, Garrett Blount comes over from the Eagles. They have Amir Abdullah, 3-year Riddick. They draft Kerryon Johnson, who I've actually talked about a lot. Kerryon Johnson, the fact that I like him coming out of Auburn, and I like him as a fantasy running back too. So I mean, I don't know about him get picked in the top half of the draft. Maybe he goes like, if it depends on how the crop of running backs kind of spill out in your draft, you could be kind of have that sleeper late in the rounds, like 10th, 11th, 12th round, and just snag him because he will be on the draft boards. And even if people don't know who he is, they're going to see, okay, he's the next running back up. I need a running back. I'm just going to take him. So, I mean, be the more informed person and take him a bit earlier before people starting to realize, oh, they just need to take him because he's actually high ranked. He's high rated. So, it depends how much, it does depend how many touches he's going to get. He could get a little watered down because of the fact that there's a bunch of talent back there. It still remains to be seen what they're going to be doing with Amir Abdullah and his contract. He might not be on the team come season time. As there's been reports that both those, either Abdullah or Riddick, both of them have a possibility of not being on this team pretty soon. But drafting Kerryon Johnson, having a LeGarrette Blount, I mean that'd be a nice 1-2 punch in itself. But without the other two guys, but they have the other two guys. So I mean you got to decide if you're willing to be okay splitting carries, or you're going to pick up one of them and just kind of roll with it. So I mean, Theo Riddick and Amir Abdullah have been good fantasy players in the past. They have a bit of a pedigree. So I mean, I wouldn't not much to shy away from there. Matthew Stafford in his own merits. He's a quarterback that could be picked late in the rounds. Could be picked late in maybe like the 15th or 14th round. If you really need a backup quarterback, or if you want a second quarterback, I picked him up off waivers throughout the middle of the season last year, and kind of used him and Big Ben to get me through the season. And once Aaron Rodgers went down, so he's definitely a guy who can be serviceable at the quarterback position, fantasy wise, because he does like to throw the ball, and he racks up a bunch of points through the air. Has a bit of some issues with turnovers that can cost you, and taking sacks as well. So you got to take the bitter with the better sometimes with Matt Stafford, and he'll usually get himself around where he is projected. So I mean, I had the decision between Ben Roethlisberger and Matthew Stafford a lot last season, and I went with Ben more often than not because I think it's the matchups as well as the fact that he had more projected points or whatever it might have been, but I definitely had that choice a bunch of times last year. As far as the defense, still got Ziggy Ansah, great guy to pick up if you have an individual defensive player. Darius Slay, great cornerback. Quentin on the safety side, they got Glover Quinn. The free safety would love to have him on a individual defensive player because he just racks up the tackles, and then also is a ball hawk there, free safety. So those three guys are my guys to watch on this defense, and could be guys that you like to use individually if you have the IDP availability, but also they wouldn't be a bad defensive unit to just kind of pick up and run out there during the season if you're just looking for a defense to mix and match with, if you're not necessarily if you're one of those people who like to mix and match defenses. But definitely Ziggy Ansah, definitely Darius Slay, and definitely Glover Quinn are individual guys at three different positions that could be difference makers for you in the individual defensive player. If you have that type of league and you're looking for a corner, a safety, a defensive end. I mean, their linebackers Kennard is pretty good, but I would definitely stay with those other three I was mentioning. All right. To the Vikings, they wish they were the defending NFC champion Vikings, but they got, after squeaking through past the Saints, they got absolutely shellacked by the Eagles. That was not even a very fun game to watch, but their roster is very shiny. It looks very nice on paper. Obviously, having Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, number 1 and 2 in your defense, in your receiver 1 and receiver 2 in the starting lineup is very nice. Obviously, getting Kirk Cousins over. Kirk Cousins as a fantasy quarterback is actually a very good bet. He's definitely draftable. Definitely a guy you could put up there on the top of that and on the top of your roster in that quarterback position and have him there for a while, because I mean, if the guy stays healthy, he could be quite dangerous. Especially with this team, having a tight end like Kyle Rudolph can only help him, because I mean, he likes to get to those tight ends. Really, him and Jordan Reed had a good rapport there in Washington, so he likes his tight ends. Obviously, having the line that they have protecting him is nice. And then obviously Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Laquan Treadwell, Kendall Wright. I mean, that's a good receiving core right there. And obviously, having Dalvin Cook back from injury and Latavius Murray can only help Kirk Cousins as well. I'll get to Dalvin in just a second, but guys like Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen are both draftable receivers. Probably going to go see themselves go in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, 6th round, depending on how receivers are coming off the board. Maybe both of them, I mean, they're both pretty evenly matched, I would say. I mean, maybe Diggs a little ahead of Thielen, but Thielen was racking up points last year, so maybe they could flip-flops either way, no matter who you want on your team. I think maybe even Thielen for PPR, Thielen maybe for Diggs for the other way around for non-PPR because he gets more yards per catch because he got the speed, takes the top out of the defense, gets a lot those deep balls versus Thielen is much more of a possession. I mean, he's got the speed too, but he's got the possession ability to get. I mean, he runs those crossing routes really well. In the out of bound and the sideline routes as well because he gets. I mean, he get the ball, get the feet in bounds, and then get out of bounds. So I mean, the possession guy for sure when it comes to just catches value for catches volume wise. But like I said, Dalvin Cook, Latavius Murray, they're going to both be used. Dalvin Cook as he's coming back from his injury. Gotta like Dalvin Cook. Probably, like I said, I'm putting him right with the Jordan Howard and Shady McCoy conversation where he might not be quite in that first round, but he could be a guy where if you didn't pick a running back from the first round, or if you did in the first round but you picked a receiver in the second round, he falls to the third round, I'd snap him up real quick because he can be a good running back. On this team, he can be very good. I mean, getting all the way down to the line, inside the 5-yard line, I think they're going to give it to him instead of Latavius. I think Latavius is going to be more of a third down back, maybe short yardage in the middle of the field. But I feel like Dalvin Cook is going to be the number one guy now coming back from the injury. And Latavius will see himself take more of a back seat. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out there in Minnesota. But that's what I'm thinking. As far as tight end, Kyle Rudolph, very good tight end. Probably third in the league right now. I would put him like number 3 tight end in the league right now, behind Ertz, Gronk and Ertz on the Eagles. But Kyle Rudolph definitely right there. I think he probably is a 5th, 6th round pick, unless you want to reach maybe the 4th round if you really need a tight end and there's not many left. He's definitely one of those top tier tight ends where you can just stick him in your lineup when the Vikings are playing, and he'll rack up his points. He'll get 15, 20 points or 13 points. He'll be solid. I mean, he's not crazy flashy, but he's definitely solid. Gets the racks and the catches. Good pass blocker. Not that really has fantasy implications, but can help keep drives going by staying and blocking on one play. And the next play, he pops for a big gain. You never know. It all kind of goes together. So gotta like that if you are a guy looking to draft some Vikings on the offense. On the defense, it's even more fun for you individual defensive players out there. You got tons of guys. I mean, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes, Andrew Sendejo, Anthony Barr, Everson Griffith. They get Sheldon Richardson coming over from the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, there's so many players here that I could just keep going. And those are all those guys I just said are definitely worth drafting for individual defensive player because they're all very, very good at their positions. All top guys in their positions. Obviously, Xavier Rhodes would be a ball hawk going for those passes. Andrew Sendejo and Harrison Smith are big hitting safeties, also good with their hands. Even got Trey Waynes on the other side of the receiver. Both their secondary is very good. And then obviously having a guy, having Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr in the linebacking positions, Everson Griffith, and Sheldon Richardson on the defensive tackle and end. So they're going to get after the quarterback. They have the speed of the linebacker to defend your running backs and your tight ends, and they have the ability to lock you down on the outside with their corners, and their safeties over the top are very solid as well. So this defense, I don't know how people are going to score on them, but they don't miss a beat. They bring everybody back that they had last year. They bring in Sheldon Richardson from the Seattle Seahawks. So I mean, what can go wrong here for this team? We got to stay healthy, obviously, but there are just so many options if you're really looking for somebody on the defensive side. So if you have a need on your defensive player list, I would look at the Vikings defense and see if there's anybody left, because you can find somebody. There's about 7 different guys. And then, of course, this defense will be fighting to be the number 1 ranked defense on the fantasy boards coming out at the beginning of the year, because obviously the Rams have increased their defensive prowess. Jacksonville's always up there when it comes to defense ability, but I mean the Vikings had the best defense in the NFC last year. So the Saints also. So you got to think about Saints, Vikings, Jags, and Rams, possibly even the Eagles. With when it comes to the team defenses, individual defense, if you're really looking for a player, there's guys all over this lineup and this depth chart here for the Vikings. Go look at it. Whether you need a linebacker, a safety, a running back, a cornerback, a defensive end, there's somebody here, and there might be two of them. I mean, seriously, there's two of them. You got two ends, Griffin and Richardson, that could be starters. You got two linebackers that could be starters on your fantasy team, Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, and you got both the cornerbacks could be starters, and both the safeties. It's just crazy how deep this defense is. But that's it on the Vikings. We'll come back, and that's going to wrap it up for the NFC North completely. We did all three teams. That was fun. Rolled right through that. We're going to do the NFC South when we come back. This is going to be the Saints, Falcons, Bucks. Oh my gosh, I did this last time. We'll figure it out as we go along. Saints, Falcons, Bucks, and Panthers. And when we come back from the break, we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, as we will be doing the NFC South for the remainder of the show now. We'll start with the Atlanta Falcons, a team that looked to get back to the NFC Championship game and to the Super Bowl after blowing a big lead, but they didn't. They were beaten by the Eagles in a rough and tumble game. Obviously, last year we all saw that playoff game, but they do make some changes during the offseason. They get a new receiver, new weapon for Matt Ryan. That's Calvin Ridley in the draft. We'll see how viable he is. Not quite. I wouldn't draft him in the fantasy quite yet. Maybe late rounds. He's actually, I would draft him late rounds, maybe mid to late rounds, because I'm trying to think now he's actually going to get some touches as a rookie because they're going to double Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu. And so then he's going to have options. He's going to have ability to get in that slot position and make a big deal, make a big impression to everybody in Atlanta and in the NFL. I think because he's just going to have opportunities to get matched up one-on-one, use his athleticness, use his athletic ability to get some separation from his defender or find a soft spot in the zone. All right. So, those receivers are all draftable. Sanu, Julio, obviously. Everybody thinking Julio's fallen off a little bit, maybe late first round, early second round for those who, that's the thing about it. Late first round and early second round in fantasy football, especially for the snake draft, is the same teams picking. So, he could be a guy where you can double up on some talent where you're going to get Julio and somebody else with that 9th and 11th pick, or 9th and 12th pick, or the 12th and 13th. Well, I don't think he's going to last 12 picks for a 12-man league. He'll probably go before that, but still, he's a guy where you can get some value. Sanu will drop probably to the 3rd or 4th round. That's where you're going to want him, maybe 5th round. It's definitely a good receiver, though, going to get in the end zone, has the ability, might throw a pass or two during the season. You never know, but definitely a guy that people will have on their teams because he just is a good value receiver, especially for PPR. We'll get that volume with those catches. On the other side, it's going to be Austin Hooper on the tight end position. He actually is one of the better young tight ends in the league, going to get a lot of balls thrown to him from Matt Ryan. Likes that tight end position, likes to throw it down the seam to that tight end, especially using it in the red zone area. And so, I mean, maybe Austin Hooper, I wouldn't draft him quite. I don't know. He could maybe be a late round pick, but I mean, the thing is, he's on the top. I would maybe put him on the fringe of a top 12 tight end, but could be a guy that pops in the middle of the year. Right now, maybe finds his legs during the middle of the year, and will be a hot commodity on the waiver wire come the middle of the season, or maybe sooner. You never know, sooner rather than later, but it could be definitely a commodity. All right, as far as running backs, obviously still having Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. Devonta Freeman is kind of that second tier running back. Like I said, we've kind of gone through a bunch of them today already with like Cohen and Howard and Riddick. I mean, Howard. Some would put Howard up in the top or upper echelon, maybe right in the fringe of the upper echelon. Which I mean, I could agree with that too. There's just so many guys that would go, but no, we're going to see Devonta Freeman probably go late, mid second round, late second round. I don't think he's going to get past the third round in a lot of different drafts because he's just too talented, and having. With that offense, he just works right well with the offense. Going to have a lot of catches out of the backfield. Same with Tevin Coleman. Probably he'll be drafted as well before the halfway point of the draft, maybe right at the halfway point. If he has to split some touches with Devonta Freeman, but that's kind of how they work. They spread it around a lot. They get both those guys the ball, and both those guys can find the end zone pretty well. So. They both have kind of fallen off a little bit ever since they lost Kyle Shanahan, obviously, but Steve Sarkisian is definitely a good replacement, a worthy OC. I don't know if we're going to see him jump into the head coaching spot anytime soon after what happened at USC, but he found his way over to Atlanta and got himself an offensive coordinator job, and we'll see how he can revamp. Well, he can just revamp that Atlanta offense a little better. They had some growing pains last year, but they still make it to the playoffs. Still played well enough to get through one round. They beat the Rams in LA, so you can't knock them for that. And they beat the Rams handily. But as far as fantasy stuff, I would definitely like to pick at least one Atlanta Falcon, whether it's a tight end, I don't know, not a tight end, whether it's a receiver or a running back, or Matt Ryan, who actually seems to find himself falling down the quarterback list every day, it's seeming, because of the fact there's just so much talent, but he's still right there. We're probably around like 8-9 quarterback that he'll get picked as everybody kind of figures out the quarterbacks they're going to draft. All right, as far as defense, nobody really that jumps out. Desmond Trufant is a good corner, but as far as individual defensive players, nobody really jumps out super off the board. Vic Beasley's a good linebacker, get a lot of tackles, but that's pretty much it on that side. All right, that'll do it for the Falcons, and we're going to go over to the next team for this first segment of the NFC South. We'll do the Panthers. Obviously got Cam. Cam is one of the most volatile fantasy players I've ever had. I've had him before. He's done very well. Also had him, and he's done very bad the whole season. So, I mean, depends. Obviously, if you had him during his MVP season, you like that, but I mean, not every time. But I mean, he's gonna have Torrey Smith and Devin Funchess, both good fantasy players. Wouldn't pick him in the first half of the draft. I would wait and see if they're still available. Add them to my bench or have them as a flex. Both good possession receivers. Torrey Smith is going to get those points he's going to go on the deep ball. Cam Newton can throw a good deep ball. Definitely could air it out. So we'll see how they work in their first season together this year. Christian McCaffrey at running back. He's in the second tier. We'll see how he does in his second season. Got in the end zone enough. Will catch the balls. PPR nightmare for those who on PPR. Definitely want to look at Christian McCaffrey. Maybe spend a draft pick on him. If he's sitting there in the third round, best be believing I'm taking him. Even though I don't have a third round pick this year because of the legendary or the keeper league, but. If he's sitting there in the fourth round, I'm taking him. Second round might be a stretch. Third round's a perfect sweet spot for him right there. But, yeah, I mean, if you already get a big receiver, I mean, I wouldn't pick him as my first running back. That's the thing. So if you want a big running back first, then you get a big receiver second, then you go back and you get another running back, possession running back is going to get a bunch of catches out of the backfield. That's where McCaffrey is going to probably land right there in that sweet spot. So, you like that. Greg Olsen, tight end, if he could just stay healthy, the guy is a top 10, top 5 tight end in the league. Probably will be drafted within the first 4 or 5 of the tight ends. Of course, he's got to stay healthy, so maybe that'll hurt his stock a little bit coming into the fantasy drafts. But he's a solid tight end if there ever was one, and it can catch pretty much any ball, run lots of different routes out of that position, and blocks pretty well too. So. Not that has anything to do with fantasy, the blocking. But, I mean, yeah, he's a very good player. That's Greg Olsen. He's just got to stay healthy. Got to stay healthy, Greg. And, yeah, I mean, definitely got to think about that. If you're going to be picking him, I wouldn't. I mean, if there's other tight ends on the board, if Kyle Rudolph's still on the board, if Evan Ingram is still on the board, I'd be hard pressed to probably not pick Olsen until those guys were off the board. If it was like my last chance, okay, it's Olsen or George Kittle. I mean, George Kittle wouldn't be bad either, but that's just my Niner fanness. As far as defense, this is another defense where they've revamped themselves very nicely. They've definitely, if they can stay healthy, they got some good talent on there. Their whole linebacking core is just absolutely stacked. I mean, Shaq Thompson, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, boom, 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 right there, starting linebackers. And, yeah, you'll like that because they're going to, for team defense is going to be good. You can pick any of them if you really need one for individual defensive player. They got Dantari Poe now as defensive tackle, coming over from Atlanta. They got Julius Peppers, who was their second round draft pick. Julius Peppers, who they got over from, he's been bouncing around a lot, but he's definitely a good veteran to have on that line. Tons of talent all over the place. I mean, and then even they're kind of a no-name secondary, but definitely some good talent back there. But in that front seven is going to be, Quan Short is very good. He's going to rack up the tackles. So that whole front seven is going to be tough. So, for those who are, this is all for helping you guys for matchups too. So, if you want to look for a defense that's going to help stop the run, you got a good runner you're going against. Maybe you want to get some points. That's not really a big way to get points in fantasy. Is a run stopping defense. They're going to not allow as much yard. You need a turnover creating defense in fantasy. But say you have a running back that's going to be playing the Panthers, maybe you don't play him that week. So that's just kind of giving you a little insight on that when it comes to that one. But for the Panthers defense there. But yeah, no, just looking at them overall, good little team to be picking some fantasy players out of. Obviously, Cam Newton is the biggest question mark, I think, for me. You never know what you're going to get from Cam Newton. I think the other guys, the receivers, are going to put up their points. They're going to get right around their projections. They're not going to go crazy, but they're going to be right where you think they're going to be. They're not going to go crazy, but they're not going to disappoint you either, I don't think. Maybe Torrey Smith would a little bit, because if he doesn't connect with those deep balls with Cam, it might be tough. But no, definitely Christian McCaffrey will get it. Fozzie Whitaker isn't a bad. If Christian McCaffrey ever has any injury problems, Fozzie's he'll probably get picked up definitely throughout the season. He's not going to get drafted, but he'll be a guy on the waivers that's going to be a hot commodity if Christian's having some issues. But hopefully he can just have a full, clean, healthy season like Cam. All of them, obviously. We want to have everybody to be healthy, because the base ability the best ability in fantasy is availability. You can't play somebody if they're hurt, so they got to be healthy and available for you to slot them on your team, and you want to be able to do that, right? So that should do it. We did the Panthers and the Falcons. I mean, it's a couple quarterbacks right there, Cam Newton and Matt Ryan, who once saw their names way up on the top of that fantasy draft list, the overall list. Now they're more around the middle. They're in the top, I mean, still top half, but around the middle of the top half. So we'll talk about two new teams. We'll do the Bucks and the Saints when we come back, and then I'll wrap it up for the show today. So just stay tuned, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, welcome back, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. As we have done the NFC North, and we have now done half of the NFC South, as we'll go through these New Orleans Saints and their roster right now before we get to the Bucks and finish off the show. Saints have a bunch of talent, obviously, on their team. Lots of people to get to on this team. Michael Thomas is a top receiver. I think he's going to go probably early in that second round. For those who maybe got a quarter, or late in the second round, depending on if you got a running back or not. If players are going to go really off of if you're going off need, or if you're going off of just best player available, he'll probably see himself go in that top two position. That top 2 rounds, regardless of what's happening. So you gotta like that if you are Michael Thomas and you like how to see where you get drafted. But for the Saints, their wide receiver depth chart is interesting. Obviously, they still got Michael Thomas. Right now, they have Ted Ginn listed as their number 2 right receiver. They have Austin Carr in the slot. So, and Cameron Meredith as the number 2 behind Michael Thomas and Brandon Coleman. So I don't know what happened to. Well, let's see where their other guy went. Obviously, they have a couple of receivers I'm not seeing on here right now, but it's okay. They're on different teams. But as far as the Saints and their offense, just looking over everything, Michael Thomas is the only thing that really pops out. Ted Ginn is, I wouldn't draft him, but he could be a guy, maybe you never know, Pops want to pick him up in the waivers. Obviously, Drew Brees is still a top quarterback, going to probably be, depending on how you think about quarterbacks, I would say maybe 5th, 6th round, 7th round for Drew Brees, depending on when everybody is kind of going away. At tight end, they got a good tight end in Benjamin Watson coming over from Baltimore. We'll see how I can only imagine him and Drew Brees would hook up nicely. They got Josh Hill also at tight end to give Brees that option down the seam. He likes those tight ends. So any Saints tight end is going to be worth at least a look on the waiver wire because they're that good and they're going to be used that well. So gotta like that. Obviously, Kamara and Ingram, that's the biggest question mark. I think coming into this season at an overall fantasy-wise is Alvin Kamara, and the fact that can he repeat what he did last year? Is he worth an early first-round pick? Is he worth the 5th pick? Is he worth the 4th pick? Is he worth taking over AB? That's the question. Ingram is probably an early 3rd-round pick, honestly, for me. Yeah. Maybe a late 2nd round. I've never been the biggest Mark Ingram fan. He had a great season last year. He was tandemed with Kamara I mean, they were just the way it worked with the two of them was kind of amazing how it just meshed together, and the two running backs were able to split carries and still get some serious fantasy yards, fantasy points, because I mean that's what they did. You don't see that very often. You see one guy maybe take off and then have a backup running back and kind of just working his way in, but two guys that really touched the ball evenly. Really, I mean, there was games where they both had 30 points or upwards of 25 points on the game because they both were getting in the end zone. The Saints were scoring a lot of points last year on the ground. As they turned into a defensive and running team, they used to be all about passing. But right now, Drew Brees is the only guy. It looks like Michael Thomas. Yeah, their receiving core is kind of interesting. They got Traquan Smith in the draft this past draft, so he's going to be a good little receiver for them. They got him in the 3rd round. Yeah, just interesting how their offense has really shifted and evolved over the years. But Mark Ingram, yeah, like I said, early 3rd round pick. I wouldn't reach for him at all. But Kamara, I think he's going to be the real deal. Honestly, he's got this. He's had all the intangibles. He has the speed, the talent, the elusiveness, the quickness, and everything, and also the ability to catch the ball. The backfield as well is very nice. So I think he's probably, if not definitely, worth the 1st round pick, whatever it may be, whether it's a 5th pick or 6th pick or 7th pick, whatever you're using him. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. All right. The defense, really quick, that's where the moneymaker is right now for the Saints, having a lot of talent back there. Obviously, Marcus Williams looking to forget about what happened at the end of last season, but still a very good safety. They got Marshawn Lattimore, obviously, on the corner position. He's very good. If you're looking for a different individual defensive player, definitely look at him. He's somebody, obviously, still have the veteran Jordan Cameron, that's what I'm looking for. The veteran Jordan Cameron down there at defensive end. And then they got Manti Te'o now in the 2nd position there. I just saw that name, a middle linebacker. I don't know what happened to Kenny Vaccaro, but we'll have to see how that defense kind of figures itself out for its 2nd season of being very good. So, but yeah, Marcus Williams and Von Bell there, and the safety positions are going to be nice for them, and definitely two guys you can think about taking in the with the individual defensive player pick. All right, last team of the day here on this GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As we come to the end of the show, I mean, the jury's still out on Jameis Winston. I don't think he's obviously not a bust. He's too good to be a bust, but he's still working out a lot of kinks that I think guys even younger than him have already worked out. He's got some turnover issues, accuracy issues. I don't think it's maturity issues. I mean, he has little interesting stuff happen over the sidelines, but he got some talent out there on the field. And Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, Sean Jackson, Mike Evans Adam Humphries are all weapons, absolute weapons on the outside, and they could all be great fantasy players, and could all be early picks, whether it's the 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. All those guys I just said. I'm not even mentioning the running backs yet because they kind of are singular, but it's crazy because it's just crazy because he just can't really get on the same page as these guys. Whether it's just they're so talented and he is talented, and they just can't mesh their talents together and make great fantasy music. I picked Mike Evans in the 1st round, or I picked Mike Evans in the 2nd round before. I think I've had him twice on my teams, and he just never really pops the way I want him to. It's like, come on. Why, help me out a little bit here. It's just it's frustrating, honestly. But it's all right because he'll figure it out. I think the older he gets, the better he can get, I hope. But so maybe this is a breakout year where you're looking and saying, oh, Jameis is going to... Because, the thing is with those tight ends and those receivers, they're really only as valuable as Jameis can make them. I mean, he's their quarterback. He's going to be throwing the ball. They got to be able to have the ball to catch. So if Jameis is going to have a good year, all those guys are going to have a good year. That's the thing. John Jackson, Mike Evans, Adam Humphries can only benefit from Jameis getting better. And same thing with the tight ends. And they could all help him to get better as well, obviously. But it's going to start with Jameis, and he's got to make everything better himself. So those guys really depending. If you're banking, it's up to you guys as the fantasy owners. If you are going to willing to make the bet that Jameis is going to really progress and advance this season, yeah, go pick Mike Evans in the second round. Go pick Deshaun Jackson in the fourth round. Go pick Adam Humphries in the seventh round, which is all where they should be anyways. Go pick O.J. Howard in the fifth round or the sixth round. He's a good tight end. He's a talented tight end. Went to Alabama. Had a good rookie season last year. Cameron Brate's another veteran tight end. Very good. So it depends how many touches they're going to get. If you're afraid of those guys splitting time, that's possible. You have to really roll the dice and see who's going to actually going to get in the end zone. But this team is just always they should be so good. They were the most underachieving team last year, maybe other than Oakland. But it's just tough. It's tough talking about them because they could just be so good. Obviously, Jaquiz Rodgers is their running back with Ronald Jones Jr. Charles Sims is also there. I love the Ronald Jones Jr. pick for the Bucs in the draft. He's a great fit for them there, and I think he honestly could be a sleeper pick when it comes to fantasy, because I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to see get in the end zone quite a bit this year, especially from those short yardage situations. He's a bruiser and has the strength to get through those NFL lines. I mean, going to USC, you definitely go against NFL-sized linemen. In the Pac-12, you're going to see those guys anyways going against guys like against the Stanfords and everything. So I love Ronald Jones. Jaquiz Rodgers, probably a fourth round, mid-third round pick. If you're still looking for a second running back, can be a good guy. Catch the ball in the backfield is elusive. A little undersized for me. I think Ronald Jones Jr. might be seeing him, or Ronald Jones II might be seeing himself take that job quickly. I think he's going to end up getting the bulk of the carries. I think Dirk Cutter is really going to like him in training camp, and he's going to leapfrog old Jaquiz on the depth chart. So I'm thinking about that. As far as defense, they got a bunch of guys on that defense that could be picks for individual defensive players. Vernon Hargreaves is a great nickelback. Could probably see himself starting in that corner position. Was a first-round pick a couple years ago. Quan Alexander is a just tackle machine on that defensive side and linebacker position. Obviously, they still have Gerald McCoy, big man inside defensive tackle. They get Jason Pierre-Paul. Vita Vea, the rookie, is going to be right next to Gerald McCoy. Gotta love that. So, lots of good options down there with the defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you're really looking for, I've still got Levante David. Those two linebackers are just absolute tackle machines. Tackles here, tackle everywhere. With Levante David and Quan Alexander, can't go wrong there if you're looking for a linebacker to start getting you. Chris Conte also is a good corner. They got Keith Tandy. Brent Grimes is a good cornerback. Chris Conte is safety, and then Brent Grimes plays corner. So all those guys got lots of talent on the defense. The only problem is they just don't meld together. A lot of blown coverages in that secondary. Got to just get that chemistry a little figured out there a little better, and they'll be well on their way to being a top defense, and maybe one that you guys pick up throughout the season with a good matchup. So I like that. I like the pick of Vita Vea. That's their first round pick they traded back and got him. I think traded back with Buffalo, and he got him with a 12th overall pick. So I like that down there in Tampa. All right, that'll wrap it up for today's show, as we did go over the NFC North and the NFC South. That was the Packers, Lions, Vikings, and Bears, and then the Saints, Panthers, Falcons, and Buccaneers. Didn't forget them all. On Thursday, we'll be doing the AFC. We'll start with the AFC West and the East, so lots of good teams to talk about there. Raiders, Chiefs, Chargers. I mean, all those different good teams over there. Talk about Broncos, obviously. Then we obviously got the Patriots, and the AFC East, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets. So got a rookie quarterback to talk about. See if we're going to think Sam Darnold's going to get started in the beginning of the season. I don't think he's going to have much fantasy implications, but there are definitely some guys they're going to glean my attention come Thursday. So stay tuned for that, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show today. So we'll see you on Thursday for another episode of the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Enjoy your week. It has been Tom Dougherty, and we'll see you on Thursday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.